And we're learning some new details about the partnership between Jeffrey Epstein and his convicted accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. Bloomberg News obtained more than 18,000 emails from the deceased sex offender's personal Yahoo account, showing that Epstein and Maxwell were closer than either publicly admitted. The emails reveal several details that have not been previously reported, including Maxwell opening at least one foreign bank account using one of Epstein's addresses. She was a named director on one of Epstein's main revenue-generating companies, and she traded stock in a company they were both invested in. The two also corresponded about discrediting women who raised allegations against them. That includes one exchange where Maxwell said she planned to share compromising information about one of Epstein's sexual abuse victims. Additionally, the emails contain a spreadsheet itemizing nearly 2,000 gifts, luxury items, and payments totaling $1.8 million, with notations indicating they were intended for Epstein's friends, business associates, and victims. Bloomberg News notes that except for 3 minor instances, these emails do not mention Donald Trump. Trump has said his friendship with Epstein ended before Epstein was charged with sex crimes. And it's important to note the emails have not been independently verified by NBC News. In response to Bloomberg's reporting, the White House issued a statement reading in part, quote, "This is just more stupid fake news playing into the hands of the Democrat hoax trying to link President Trump and Epstein." I want to bring in now former Republican Congressman Charlie Dent of Pennsylvania, and with me here on set, Democratic strategist Christina Reynolds. Thank you both for being here. It has been a busy, pretty heavy news week, and that's what we do on this panel is we break it all down. But I want to start there, Congressman, with that news of the Epstein-Maxwell relationship, the fact that they were closer than they ever really publicly admitted, and what this means to the ongoing investigations on Capitol Hill and the push for transparency. Does this change anything in the landscape?
Yeah, my quick take on this is it does not change much of anything. I don't think it's particularly revelatory that we're finding out that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were pretty close. I mean, after all, she was finding young girls for Jeffrey Epstein, so I'm not at all surprised that she also had business entanglements with him. And on the broader issue, I suspect that no matter what Congress reveals about Jeffrey Epstein, it will not be enough to satisfy those, particularly on the conspiracy theory fringe, who, they want everything, and whatever's going to be released is going to be heavily redacted, and it won't be enough. This administration has more or less hoisted itself on its own conspiracy theory petard by raising expectations about Jeffrey Epstein not committing suicide, and that there was not an Epstein list, only to have only to reverse themselves later. I think has just put this administration in a very difficult position with elements of its base.
As someone who tracks the politics of this, Christina, talk a little bit about the ways that Democrats are positioning themselves on this. Because as I asked them when they came back from August recess, what did you hear about at town halls when you were talking with constituents? Some of them said, yeah, I did hear about Epstein, this larger concern for transparency, but it wasn't the central focus.
No, it's one of the focuses, right? And I think Democrats need to do what Democrats are doing right now, which is make it one of their focuses. We have a lot going on in the country right now, so it's fair to demand that transparency that, by the way, the Trump campaign demanded all the way through the last campaign. It's also fair to talk about health care, to talk about rising inflation, to talk about all the other issues that are happening. And I think Democrats are striking that balance of we would like to hear it all.
Yeah, we would like to hear it all. And this is, of course, just one of the stories that we've been tracking throughout the week. Congressman, I think the central focus for all of us, rightly, has been on political violence. Charlie Kirk being murdered there when he was just giving a talk with supporters for Turning Points USA. Your initial reaction to this, and if you've talked to any of your former colleagues in Congress, we've got a lawmaker coming up just after this segment, but there is a lot of fear here. I mean, what are you thinking about, Congressman, in these days after the Charlie Kirk shooting and just hearing that things really are at a boiling point right now in this country?
Well, what's so tragic about this here, Charlie Kirk was simply exercising his First Amendment right, and he was assassinated for that. And, you think about him as a person. His wife is a widow. His 2 young children will have no father. And so this is so sad on so many levels. But with respect to political violence, sadly, we have a bad history of it in our country and just in recent years. And I would go back to, Gabby Giffords. That's when I first really woke up to the security issue as a member of Congress. We took all kinds of precautions after that terrible shooting of her. And then, of course, Steve Scalise was shot at the baseball practice. Josh Shapiro in my state had the governor's residence firebomb while he and his family were sleeping in it. The New Jersey GOP office, New Mexico GOP office, I believe, was bombed. President Trump himself was the object of 2 assassination attempts, one that nearly killed him. And so we should be concerned. But this is not the first time in our history where we've had political violence. You think since after Abraham Lincoln through the Gilded Age, over 3 presidents were assassinated. In the 60s, JFK, RFK, Martin Luther King, Jr., all killed within a few years of each other. And here we are again. And I put a lot of this on social media. You know, the political discourse in this country is just so toxic. And much of it is happening on social media, where people will post and say things that they would never in a million years say publicly, or if ever confronted face to face. And I think that's not a small part of what's happening. And it's incumbent upon political leaders to stand up and speak in more measured terms, turn down the temperature, and people who are on shows like this one and every other show that we have a duty to speak, I think, responsibly and carefully.
I think that's 100% right. And both of you are, political animals in the sense that you've been in these arenas for so many years. Part of politics, especially at the national level, is people go so hard with their ideas. There's passion behind that. But it does feel like we are teetering at the point where that passion can lead to radical actions and violence, like we've seen. And the congressman listed these, Christina, on both sides of the aisle. It's not just happening to one party. And I think that the larger question that I have here, and I talked about this after the Minnesota tragedy where Melissa Hortman was murdered alongside her husband, what this means for people who might want to get into the political arena. Because I've had Republicans and Democrats alike, staffers or people who are trying to get into elected offices, say, I actually don't want to do this anymore. Right. And that's bad for our country.
It's terrible for our country. The truth is, one of the bravest things you can do is raise your hand to run for office, to say, I want to make my community better, and this is one of the ways that I can do that. And what we need to do is criticize ideas. I fight passionately for the ideas that I believe in. I am a partisan, and I believe that my party's ideas are the best way to make our communities better. We need to stop demonizing people, groups of people. We need to make sure that when we are attacking ideas, that we are not attacking the people who hold those ideas. And it's not that hard to do. And I think we all need to focus on doing that a little better.
Yeah, politics has become, I think, so personal. And you're right. At the end of the day, we're arguing policy. We're arguing ideas.
That's right. And it doesn't have to be toxic. It can be passionate without being toxic.
I want to thank both of you, former Congressman Charlie Dent and Christina Reynolds, for coming in, joining us this morning, breaking down a really heavy week. Thank you for coming on, and take care of yourselves as we go into the weekend.